My dear people of Southern Cameroons, my dear people of Amazonia, accept revolutionary greetings from me, John Ba Akuro. Today is Monday, the 29th of July in the year of our Lord 2019. I am coming today to talk about a very sacred and important meeting that was held in Yaounde on Friday. Friday, the 25th of July, 2019. That meeting brought together the members of something they call NOWELA, the Northwest Elite Association, but in effect, you should call it the CPDM Northwest Elite. That is how they actually call themselves. That meeting was a meeting that had just one key item on the agenda: how to bring back normalization to the Southern Cameroons in order to stall, in order to put an end to anything ever called negotiations between the people of the Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroon, and also to make sure that they meet the deadline that we saw in a very, very confidential letter addressed to the head of state of La République du Cameroon, Mr. Paul Biya, with respect to the UN session that comes up in September, and fears that the United Nations Security Council might soon go ahead to, enlist the situation in the Southern Cameroons as a standalone with very vexing consequences on La République du Cameroon. And so one of the people who attended that meeting sent me, the minutes of the meeting. And it is important for us to take note of everything that I'm going to be bringing out from that meeting. So the meeting started at 10 minutes after 5 p.m. on Friday, the 25th of July, 2019, and ended at 7:36 p.m. at the residence of the former Prime Minister, Philemon Yang. And just so you know, that his residence is just about 300 meters away from the official residence. It's when you leave the Prime Minister's residence at the lakeside and you are heading to the gendarmerie to SED, where a lot of our people have been kept in solitary confinement and tortured seriously. When you leave the Prime Minister's residence and you are heading there, just about 3 meters before you take the bend to get to the main road, you see the largest building on your left. That's to your left. It is the residence of former Prime Minister Philemon Yang. It is his private residence. He bought that house while he was still a prime minister, and that is where he lives. And that is where a lot of those very sacred and, ill-intentioned meetings are held. So this meeting took place at that residence. And so, like I said, the key item on the agenda this time was specifically back to school and eventually how the ghost towns will be destroyed. And so the Vice Minister at the Ministry of Basic Education, Madame Kilo, is actually the one who gave the keynote presentation, and she said a good lot of things about the plans that they're making to take children back to school, not because they like the children, nor because they like us, but because that is the assignment handed down to them by the presidency of the Republic at the behest of the colonial power France. At least I'm saying things that were said at that meeting. And so Madame Barra indicated that pilot schools have been identified in the northern zone, what they call the Northwest, where, all sorts of measures are going to be taken to ensure that these schools at least reopen and they have children going to school there with some security measures to guarantee that once they take off, then they can use them as a way of encouraging others to follow suit. And she explained that the same thing has also been done in the southern zone. So while she was still in this discussion, the Minister of Territorial Administration at Tanga Ponji, who arrived at the meeting late, bumped in just at this time, and everything was put on hold for him to say what he had very urgent to say. And this is when he came in with a bag in his hand. He pulled out that bag, a little school bag. He opened it. He removed a math set from the bag and removed a few other school items, few books, ruler, pencil, pens, and all of those things, and put on the table, and indicated that that is the model of the bags that he was just giving to representatives of all the 6 counties in the southern zone, and that at the same time that he gave those bags to those representatives, he dished out 10 million CFA francs to each of the counties in the southern zone. And that was done in the presence of the CPDM elite 2 of the southern zone. And on that occasion, the elite instantly raised the sum of 10 million francs to add up to support the initiative, and because they had to do a lot of extension with the press. And so when he was done, he indicated that a similar exercise is going to take place in the northern zone, and the sum of 70 million have been set aside from government, so that 10 million CFA francs will also go to each county. The money will be shared out to families in the sums of 4,000, 5,000 here with those bags and everything, and encouragement, especially to let them have some, something that pushes them to feel that now they are having money from the state and they should be able to send their children to school. So when he brought in that and indicated that a good chunk of money had already been set aside and paid out to the press, both in the northern and in the southern zone, that every single journalist worthy of the salt has received enough money both in the northern and the southern zone to make sure they virtually leave aside all their activities to talk about back to school and talk about normalcy. And it is at this point that Mr. Philemon Young interjected to say that they have personally disbursed the sum of over 20 million CFA francs to one organization called SENPA. And I found out that SENPA is the recently created publishing association for English-speaking journalists. It's called the Cameroon English Newspaper Publishers Association. That's SENPA, and that the sum of about 20 million have been disbursed already to SENPA to make sure all the English language newspapers are touched, and will lead a sustained campaign right up to September with a lot of frontline stories and all whatnot, doing everything to make sure that they guarantee a return to normalcy. And I think I already saw some newspaper headlines in which the president of SENPA, Mr. Christian, was outlining exactly what SENPA has to be doing to ensure back to school. So I don't know since when back to school became an affair of, journalists. And so on the spot again, to make sure that the drive gains a lot of steam, a fundraiser was conducted, and the sum of 22 million CFA francs was raised instantly. And that money that was raised, I want to give some specific names so you know exactly that what we're not talking about trash here or speculation. Madame Ba Acha, the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of the Supreme State Audit, gave it a sum of 2.5 million francs. Satanga Ponji put in the sum of 2.5 million francs. Mr. Mo Sylvester, who is Director General of the Treasury, gave the sum of 1.4 million francs. And when he did that, he called Mr. Edwin Fongot, who is the Director General of Customs, who happened not to be at the meeting, and communicated to him what he had given in. And Mr. Fongot instructed him by telephone instantly to also announce a sum of 1.4 million CFA francs from him. Mr. Chia Safo gave the sum of 500,000 francs. Mr. Mingo Paul Gogomo, who is now Minister of our Portfolio at the presidency, gave the sum of 1.5 million francs. Mr. Fu Callistus Gentry gave the sum of 1.5 million francs. Mr. OK Johnson, who is the director of the CSP, the Director General of CSPH, he's a hybrid. He's always part of both the meetings of the elite of the Southwest and those of the Northwest, because he appears to be from both areas. I understand he gave the sum of 1 million francs. Then Pa Achidi Achu Simon, though ailing, tired, and everything, was present. He initially gave him the sum of 50,000 francs, but towards the end of the meeting, he felt he had listened a bit more. He felt that he wanted to push the drive again more seriously, and so he pledged an additional 100,000 francs, and then suggested that for the back-to-school campaign, they should make use of Njangi houses, of all kinds of meeting houses, and make sure that the message should go from mouth, I beg your pardon, from mouth to ears, everywhere on the territory. And then when that was done, Mr. Tanga Ponji announced, and Madame Kilo announced, that they had already secured the adherence of the Catholic mission, that the Catholic mission had agreed to the plan and will actually assist in making sure they identify families to whom they should give money, families they consider would easily participate in the program, that the Catholic Mission has sworn that come rain, come shine, they are going to open the doors of their schools everywhere in Southern Cameroons, whatever the circumstances. So the Catholic Mission is in, and also announced that the Presbyterian Mission has indicated their willingness to cooperate, but they are yet to really finalize things. And the Baptist Mission was still to be contacted. So that is how it's been arranged. And then especially the Catholic Mission boarding schools will be most of the schools that will be used as a pilot. And then concerning the IDPs, the internally displaced persons who are based in Douala and Yaounde, Mr. Philemon Young said nothing should be done to any of those ones because they're already taken themselves to safe shores, and they should try their own way in whatever shape or form to send their children to school. And then Mr. Atanga Ponji made a special announcement. He said the strict instruction from the head of state, Mr. Paul Biya, was that they should note that the presidency did not receive a Swiss delegation that came in to talk about mediation because the Republic of Cameroon is not ready for any negotiations with whosoever and are not going to go for any negotiations. And that everything has to be done to ensure that schools return. And once schools return, they will take now to the next approach that will ensure that the ghost towns are completely cancelled, because if that is done by September, then everything is certain. The world would understand there is no more need for any negotiations with whosoever, because life has returned to normal, the situation has been handled, and Cameroon has its situation under control. He also announced that everything is going to be done when schools return, and they will take security measures to ensure that crimes will be committed here and there, and the Ambazonian fighters will be indicted, because they have to enlist the support of the rest of the world to make sure that they say the people still fighting are just pockets of rascals and rebels specialized basically in kidnappings. And so in the days ahead, you are going to see a lot of kidnapping again, especially in the two regions, because they say kidnapping has proven to be an effective way of turning the population against the Amba fighters who are, struggling to secure the independence of the Southern Cameroons. So most of those who will be targeted will be priests, there will be pastors, there will be foreigners, there will be relief workers of various UN agencies and other international bodies that are coming in to want to go to the various IDP locations in the bushes to distribute assistance. A lot of them are going to be kidnapped, and huge ransoms will be asked. And he said this is going to be done with the complicity of the military, who will now operate a lot more in civilian attire. So too often when you get the telephone numbers that they call you after they've kidnapped anybody from you, make sure you send that telephone number for verification, because some verifications have been done of late, and we've realized that a lot of the numbers are owned by francophones. The names that come out from the system are the names of francophones. And so this tells you exactly the direction of what is happening on the ground. And so indicated that all the talks about negotiations and all whatnot, they will push for the Swiss to have another meeting, to come up, just to make sure that they give the international community the feeling that something is being done, but they are not going to negotiate with terrorists, in quotes. That is what Mr. Atanga Ponji announced to the people at that meeting. So this is the substance of that meeting, which of course, as I have pointed out, ended at 7:36 p.m. And so, for our people in the diaspora and for our people on ground zero, you can now understand very clearly that back to school has got nothing to do with love for our children or love for the education of our children. Back to school has a lot more to do with making sure that we remain slaves forever. Back to school has a lot more to do with making sure that we continue operating under subjugation, that all the lives that have been taken will go in vain. Back to school is not because they love our children. Back to school is not because they love our future. Back to school is because they have to use that to enslave us once and for all. I'm using this opportunity to call on our people to be wise. And I want to say this. There is a certain journalist who was at that meeting whose only name could be gotten as Yingcho. My informant didn't actually have the opportunity to get the name fully. And this informant noted that this journalist got up and explained that the campaign was actually started by Mancho Bibixi very effectively from prison, and started doing a lot of audios, and that it was going on very well until the incident that happened in prison happened. At this point, he wanted to explain further about the involvement of Mancho Bibixi, but Mr. Philemon Young interrupted and halted him, and said he was quite sensitive. They should leave those things and talk about much later. I think what you should understand is they felt that, a lot of that information could, get out there, that could get to us, and we will be able to make use of that information to foil their plans. And I think we should all note that it was also because Mr. Philemon felt that they started using Mancho Bibixi, but because they couldn't hide their characteristics, they had to pounce on Mancho Bibixi at the first ever opportunity. Because from what I gathered at that meeting, the prison riot wasn't actually supposed to be a riot. They pushed Mr. Mancho Bibixi, T. Conrad, and others to organize a peaceful protest in prison to call for school resumption. But unfortunately, when Mancho Bibixi summoned people to start this particular activity, the other Southern Cameroons prisoners, so vexed, decided to use it rather to show their patriotism to the Ambazonian flag by coming in to sing the anthem and to express their loyalty to the cause of the freedom of the people of the Southern Cameroons. And so they now had to forget that they themselves orchestrated this. They now had to forget that they wanted to use this for their purpose, but unfortunately it didn't go well, and so they ignored all of those things and pounced on the same Mancho Bibixi who was their ally. This is something that we should all take serious note of and be very careful, fellow Southern Cameroonians. I want to use this opportunity to call on all and sundry to understand that at this particular point in time, we too need a lot of resources. I've said it before, that while we keep thinking that Southern Cameroons is our land, that freedom is our right and we deserve it, that the restoration of our independence is a foregone conclusion, we forget that the enemy, the thief, works round the clock to make sure that we will remain in bondage. While they are there contributing huge sums of money and going to tempt our people with this money, what are we doing? We are arguing whether we should put in dollars or not. My dear people, this is the time more than ever before to put in this money because we need it. Let me repeat it. Insult me what you like, but take note, we need this money if we must make sure that our independence quest stays on course. Make sure you send in your contribution. I am going at the end of this video to display the account credentials once more as the first message, and I'll pin it at the top. But for those who can just listen to it, hear it. If you want to do Cash App, you want to do Zelle, if you're in the United States of America, use the telephone number 301-898-6324. 301-898-6324. Out of America, you want to use PayPal, send your money to amberrelief2018@gmail.com. Amber, A-M-B-A, Relief, RELIEF 2018@gmail.com. Amber Relief, one word. Amber Relief 2018@gmail.com. Or you go to the website of the Ambazonia Relief Fund. It is www.amberrelief.org. You will also be able to make your contribution directly there. My dear people, we have only ourselves to count on. Let us put in every effort necessary to make sure that we take this liberation struggle to fruition. To God be the glory.